Oh. Oh, gitu apa? Oh, gitu.
Halo, selamat pagi. Sebelum acara dimulai, mohon maaf untuk mengingatkan bagi yang belum meng-unmute speakernya. Ada Isnaini Nursuli. Wait, hello Francisca Pase. Wait, I'm just checking out. Hey, wait. Let me turn it on the video. Let me make it on. I'm checking out for the participants and make sure to unmute the speaker. Wait, okay. Good morning, Francisca Pase. Yeah. Saya mengingatkan kembali sebelum acara dimulai, Bapak Ibu mohon untuk meng-unmute speakernya. Di sini masih ada Nita Herliana yang belum meng-unmute speakernya. Setelah itu kita bisa mulai. Okay, very good morning, everyone. And then good morning for the webinar participants. We are happy to have you here. We are also glad to have our speaker here, Francisca Pase. Good morning. And then before we proceed to our program, actually this program is held from a cooperation between Masters of English Education of Universitas PGRI Semarang and American Institute for Indonesian Studies, IFIS, as we know IFIS. And now we are here today. We are holding our second webinar episode under the theme of education and the changes of an era. And here, Siti Nuraini, PhD, as the head of Masters of English Education of UGRIS, as the one who organized this webinar series under the title Education and the Changes of an Era. And we would like also thank you for the involved parties, especially for American Institute for Indonesian Studies, IFIS, as well as Masters of English Education of Universitas PGRI Semarang. So allow me as the moderator for the second webinar episode, and my name is Lairi. Good morning. And today we will be focusing on virtual education in review that Francesca Pase will be talking about it later on. But before we jump to the discussion and the presentation that will be delivered by Francesca Pase, I would like to let you know about the rules of conducting this webinar, that we are having 90 minutes in this session. That is 30 minutes for the presentation. And then for the rest, we have 60 minutes for questions and answers. And for the participants, for the webinar participants related to the certificate distribution, the certificate will be sent to your email by the next 2 or 3 days directly via your email. And then here, before we have the discussion with our speaker, I would like to read the short CV of our speaker, Francesca Pace, that she got her bachelor degree of science in acting from Illinois State University, and then she got Masters of Educational Psychology from Northern Illinois University, and then she got Certificate of Graduate Study in Advanced Qualitative Methodology in Education, Northern Illinois University, and at this moment, she's still pursuing her doctoral of philosophy from in University of Georgia Educational Theory and Practice. And she got from her research experience that she became a research assistant from Northern Illinois University Project Dreams. And then related to her teaching experience, and she taught at University of Georgia for focusing on early childhood education, started from spring 2017 up to fall 2018. And then she taught at Northern Illinois University, which was focusing on literacy education. And she has ever taught at University Gajah Mada, the UGM, Universitas Gajah Mada, as a lecturer, where she taught academic speaking and cross-cultural understanding. And she got awards and fellowship from Radcliffe Writing Fellow National Writing Project and NIULPF Chair Grant. And during her staying in Indonesia for a certain period, so I think she can speak moderate Indonesian. Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so here we come. And without further ado, I would like to give the time to our speaker, Francesca Pace. The time is yours. And she will be talking about virtual education in review. Please. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Before we get started, I wanted to thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And right now, we all know we're all facing difficult times with COVID-19, and we're also facing difficult times as education. It's changing. And I don't have any concrete answers to solving all of the problems. I wish I did. This is designed more to be an overview of what I'm seeing and what's happening here in the state of Georgia, mostly in the United States. And I'll be discussing the pros and cons. But first I'm going to, the way this presentation is set up, I'm going to discuss the different models that are being used because there are different models. And what they were originally created for. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the United States school context, because the educational context in the United States is very different than the educational context in Indonesia. The way that it's funded and allocated is different. And then also my context and the context of the talk. I'm going to give you the advantages and the disadvantages of the different pedagogical models that I'm seeing here. And then I'm going to discuss some possibilities. And at the end, I would like to not just open to question and answer, but if you have any ideas and about ways to approach some of these problems, I think everybody could use all of the good ideas that we can get. So I have, let me share my screen. Here we go. PowerPoint. There we go. Oops. So, getting away from me. So today's presentation is called Teaching and Learning in Elementary Education During the Time of COVID-19. So the models that I'll be discussing today are distance learning, homeschooling, hybrid education, and then teaching and learning during a pandemic. Because philosophically, the way that these things are approached are very different. Distance learning, homeschooling, and hybrid education were created for a very specific purpose. And now we've had to take them and adapt them to something else to create something completely different, which is teaching and learning during the pandemic. So pre-COVID, distance learning, it was primarily designed for adult education. There's some argument as to what the difference is between e-learning, virtual learning. The main thing about it, though, it is usually profit driven if it's formal education. A lot of online universities specifically are, they recruit students to be able to get a degree away without having to actually attend on campus. And this is very good for students who want to get university degrees from outside of their home country, people who are busy working, people who are busy working while raising families. There are also informal distance learning models, things like MOOCs. You don't get, a Harvard degree if you take courses at Harvard. But the main purpose of these is to train people for employment. Now we're using these models in elementary education, so they're different. So homeschooling is an option that we have here. And in this context, caregivers usually design the curriculum. There's a lot more freedom and a lot more flexibility. A lot of parents choose this, or caregivers choose this model as a way to work with children who have disabilities, or if children have specialized priorities. For example, I have a friend who her daughter is training to be, she wants to be an Olympic equestrian. And she spends a lot of time training with horses. She can't spend a lot of time in the actual classroom, so they've kind of taken on homeschooling. Also, religious preferences is another reason why parents choose homeschooling. If they're in disagreement with the values of the public education system or private schools, they often will choose homeschooling. This is something that has been a lot of parents just do, and there are a lot of resources that are available for parents who homeschool. Now, another model that we're seeing now is hybrid education. This now pre-COVID, this was more common in adult education. There can be different definitions that are used. I'm not sure if you're from the synchronous versus asynchronous teaching. Some people say, oh, we do some synchronous and some asynchronous, and that's a hybrid model. But the model that I'm going to be talking about, because the model that we're talking about here right now in the state of Georgia is, and actually in the greater US, is a hybrid model that combines both face-to-face and either synchronous or asynchronous teaching. But originally, it can be any of those. And it has flexibility to meet for a lot of people, because it allows you, like, you meet occasionally, like you might meet once before COVID. You might go to attend a university class 3 times during a semester, but then you have weekly assignments. So it gives you a chance to both touch base and have the experience of having a face-to-face instruction, but also the freedom and flexibility of being able to do your assignments online at your own pace. So I want to talk a little bit about COVID-19 teaching and learning. All of these models are being used throughout the United States, and they have been shifting. I've seen some districts where they've shifted from going hybrid to going to fully remote. Well, sorry, from fully remote to hybrid back to fully remote in 1 month. And you can use a combination of different models where you have some classrooms are using, some students are completely online, And then you have some students that are doing a hybrid model. But then also, I think that there are possibilities that are being explored in some areas, but where we can use more creative solutions that go beyond these models, and most of these models were designed for adults. So a little bit about the US context. We do not have a national curriculum here. The federal government oversight is generally related to protecting students' rights, making sure that children with disabilities are getting equitable access to education, migrant populations, that they're getting equitable education, it's ensuring against sexual discrimination, ensuring against discrimination according to race, religion, that kind of thing. State governments are the ones who they can choose the curriculum, although they don't always choose curriculum. And then below the states, we have districts that that basically they have the majority of the decision-making process as to what's going on in the school. And those, the districts, the people who are making the decisions usually, or should be ideally, teachers, parents, community members, school administrators, and politicians that were elected officials. So these people as a group are making decisions about curriculum. We also have one thing that is actually very kind of different is we have family units are rarely intergenerational. So you do have a lot of times a household that would be a husband and a wife and 2 or 3 children, and maybe the grandparents are very far away, very removed from the family. Very rarely are they intergenerational. And over 23% of our households have are single parent households. So that would be one parent raising the child. That person is the one who's also responsible for working. And there might not be another caregiver in the household. So my context, I'm a teacher educator, and University of Georgia is a professional development university. And what that means is that we actually, under non-COVID, before COVID, we have faculty members, we have basically, they're not lecturers, but we have instructors who are half paid by the university and also paid by the local school district. And those people are on site, and they give professional development to the teachers and to staff while they're there. We are very involved in our local schools, and we spend a lot of time in them. My program places approximately 300 students in elementary schools across 10 counties per semester. And that might be 10 different districts, and each district is going to have a different rules, different curriculums, different things going on. And currently I am actually, because I'm finishing up my dissertation, I'm not supervising, but usually I supervise from 2016 until now. I've supervised anywhere from 3 to 25 students. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about this, this particular talk, what I did is I gave, it's an overview of how children, teachers, and parents and administrators in this state are responding to the different models being offered, because I wanted to look at the pros and the cons and see where the strengths and the weaknesses are. So what I did is I contacted teachers and teacher educators that I work with and that I'm friends with, and ones who have children. So they're seeing it both from the perspective as an educator, but also perspective of a parent, to kind of discuss what they're seeing in the schools. And so this is a discussion of what the models look like in practice. Right now, this is not generalizable. Everything here is so new, and we're still like constantly working. This is not at this point a research study, but it could be a foundation for future research. So the first model that I want to look at is the distance learning during COVID-19. And this is specifically for elementary school. So one of the things that we're seeing is some of the districts are requiring that the teachers be in the schools teaching while the students are, the children are at home, and the children are learning remotely, but the teachers are actually in the school building doing the teaching. But we also have some where the teachers are at home and they're teaching from home. So the advantage to this particular model is it is a lower risk of spread of COVID-19 because there are no children present. However, well, we'll get into that. Now, when the teachers are at home, the advantage to this model is that the teachers, because they're in their homes, they do not have to wear masks or shields, and the teachers can actually look at the children's facial expressions, and the children can look at the teacher's facial expressions. And there's a certain amount of socio-emotional learning that can happen that can't happen if the teacher's wearing a mask. Asynchronous teaching, an advantage of this, allows for parents to set more flexible schedules for children and themselves. So if parents are working and they have an asynchronous schedule, the kids can be, off reading at some point, and then maybe after dinner, the parents can sit down and work with the children for a little bit to help them with some of their work. But it kind of gives more flexibility to both the children and the parents. It also allows teachers to plan and upload lessons according to their own schedules, because teachers are human beings too. And these people a lot of times have children in their own homes, and they're trying to help their children work through and learn remotely as well. So the asynchronous kind of allows for that flexibility. One thing that is very cool, with distance learning, we're seeing in some of the schools, they're doing material pickups, where even though the children are not in the school, the teachers, parents come in and once a week and pick up a box of materials for the children. And these would be folders, and sometimes there's an exchange. Sometimes parents are also dropping off like children's materials. So one of the things that we're concerned about, just in general, is that with all of this electronic learning, especially in early childhood, material engagement is extremely important. So children being able to actually hold a pencil, and not just for development of fine motor skills, but that is important, but still to actually see the way that a pencil drags across a paper, and to see that happen is still part of an experience. And when children have access to materials and they're showing those they're working with those materials and they're showing their teachers the materials over the camera, instead of just doing everything on a screen, it's a great experience. And one of the things that we've seen too is that sometimes parents are really excited and to be able to see what their children are learning. They're feeling more of a connection to their students or to their children, and more part of their children's educational process. So that would be the pros of distance learning during COVID-19. Now, the disadvantages. In the early childhood context, teachers often use their bodies to redirect students who are off task. And by that, I mean, sometimes you don't need to actually interrupt a student. If a child is doing something, sometimes just a gentle touch on the shoulder can refocus a child and get their attention. Sometimes just turning around and looking at a child can catch that child's attention. The child will see the movement and they'll redirect and refocus on the teacher. When there's not people in the room and they're looking at screens, the teachers have to rely on verbal cues. And when you're looking at a classroom of, let's say, 20 students or 25 students, and you see that 8 of them are off task, the teachers are constantly saying Billy, no, Billy, okay, put that down. Billy, put that down. And no, Sarah, leave the dog alone. So the teachers are saying these things instead of actually working with materials or working with the content. And it's a lot harder. And from what I've seen, it's exhausting to watch. And I can't imagine, I personally have not had to do this thing, thankfully. Another issue that we're seeing is childcare for children whose parents work outside of the home. So not everybody, like I said, we have a lot of single parent households, and you don't have a lot of intergenerational households. So childcare is a very real issue. So if we have a parent who is not going to be around during the day, you can't leave a 7-year-old child at home alone you just can't leave a 7-year-old child home alone. So this is a problem for a lot of people. And for parents who are doing remote work at this time, it's also a problem. Actually, I was just speaking to a friend of mine who has a daughter. She'd be, first grade. And she is thinking of quitting her job and taking a different job just so that she can be there with her child and help her child go through the schooling, because a lot of parents, especially with young children in kindergarten, first, second, and second grade, there needs to be somebody there present to kind of help a little bit, so that the teacher isn't going, no, don't touch the dog, don't play with the cat, get back here. Like, having a parent there is very helpful. So even for parents who are working from home, it's still a lot of work. Now, for teachers who are in the schools, who are teaching from the school building while their students are remote, they still have to wear masks and they have to still wear protective face gear. One of the issues that we have and that we've been talking about a lot is problems with ventilation systems. Once again, the climate here in the United States, I mean, it's a big country, so we have a lot of different climates, but our buildings tend to be more, there's less air circulation than in the majority of the schools I've seen in Indonesia. There's not a lot, there's no fresh air coming into the building. So there's a lot of concern about whether or not it's going to be spread through the heating and the air conditioning systems between teachers. So teachers have to go in fully masked. So once again, you're losing those facial expressions, you're losing that that contact. You're once further removed than just looking at things through video. And another thing that we're seeing that is a problem is synchronous learning schedules. Some districts are calling for students as young as 7 to sit in front of their computers from like 8 a.m. until like 3 p.m. to sit at a desk. And as adults, we can all understand we do not want to sit at one desk from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Children definitely are not equipped to do that. So we're seeing a lot of developmentally inappropriate time frames for distance learning. There's also less human connection for the children. Children are feeling isolated. One of my colleagues actually opted out of this distance learning because their child was just very sad all of the time. From being away from their friends and being away from everybody. And if children do not have material pickups, the screen time is dramatically increased. And one of the parents who is also a teacher educator was just kind of concerned too about possibility of the children having unsupervised screen time might mean that they're looking at inappropriate materials online, that could be happening. The other issue that we're seeing too is that a lot of large companies are selling curriculums to the schools instead of the teachers actually designing what's happening and being able to meet the needs of their individual students. They're getting companies, we're familiar with Pearson, companies like Pearson are coming in and saying, here, we're going to design your lesson plans, we're going to design everything. And that kind of leaves the teacher out, and it kind of leaves the student out, because students have different needs and different ways of learning. Students with special needs, students with disabilities may not be getting any support, and parents are exhausted. They're just very exhausted by this, would be the biggest thing that I've been hearing. So the other, one of the other options that we're seeing is with homeschooling. Looking at homeschooling, the advantage is there's less chance of viral spread. The kids are at home. The parents are able to have a little bit more control over who is included, whether like they're sometimes getting together with other families who are also homeschooling for less chance of spread, but giving that social interaction. And the curriculums are flexible because they're designed by the parents to meet their children's needs. And there's a lot of resources available for students who homeschool. Unfortunately, the disadvantages are that most parents are not equipped. This just started. They're not equipped or trained to design a curriculum. It's not an easy thing to do to design a lesson plan. Large companies, once again, are selling these prepackaged curriculums, and they're not necessarily appropriate. And one thing that we're seeing that is kind of concerning to us is that our school districts get funding based on how many students are enrolled. We're seeing students being pulled out to do homeschooling, and that is going to decrease the funding for the schools for the children who are still enrolled in the schools who are not homeschooling. And we're also seeing, once again, childcare issues are an issue with this. And once again, children may be searching for inappropriate material online. So hybrid models can look very different depending. They can be where they have a small group of children, maybe 7 children come in for 2 hours a day at from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. And then a new group comes in from 10 a.m. till noon. Or it can be that they have a small group of children that are there the entire day, but the days have been shortened. We're seeing with this children who need peer interaction and are able to go to school to physically be near friends. This is something that is very good for them. Like I mentioned, one of my colleagues, their child is now in a hybrid situation and is attending physically in school because they need to be near their friends. This is really good for children who have disabilities or who need additional support. It is very good for children who are in financial need. The schools do supply food a lot of times for students, and this helps them with that. And it has a lot of the same advantages of distance learning, but there is a higher chance of COVID spread with this model because you are having children in the classroom. So the disadvantages, like I said, this one is, other than having the schools fully open, this is the highest risk for COVID spread. The teachers are once again fully masked and in protective gear at all times. And for early childhood, it is very important for children to see facial expressions. It is one of the ways that they learn empathy. It is one of the ways that they learn to express their emotions appropriately. And it's one of the, it helps with behavioral problems, potential behavioral problems. Sometimes the teachers are teaching lessons 2-3 times the same lesson over and over again, depending, they're doing online and face-to-face students. That once again, they're still also relying on vocal cues to redirect. So because they can't physically be as close to the children, so they have to still say, Joey, sit down, instead of walking over to the child. Children are not always comfortable wearing masks, and sometimes children don't understand why they have to be physically distanced. And when they're actually in the classrooms, a lot of the teachers are spending most of their time cleaning surfaces and directing children to keep a healthy environment instead of actually focusing on the lessons. And once again, we're looking at the same disadvantages of distance learning. One of the things that is kind of scary about this particular model is because this one is so heavy on the teachers. We're seeing a lot of teachers quitting now because this is just not a sustainable model for teachers. So some of the possibilities that we've been kind of talking about, classrooms outdoors, classrooms in open and outdoor spaces when weather's permitting. But one of that would be ideal, but it does rain. And another thing that we're talking about is curriculum designed by experts that are focused on experiential learning rather than teaching to the test. So having curriculum that focuses on things like helping, like teaches measurements and ratios based on like learning how to cook. So the children can be learning material as they're existing in their houses. Activities, this STEM activities, science activities that would focus on learning about the plants in their backyard, these kinds of things. We're also talking about a focus on health and well-being of children, families, and teachers, because healthy, happy children are going to, well, be happier and healthy. That's the most important thing that we need to look at. And they're going to be more, learning is going to, the academic learning is going to be more of a possibility if the children are happy and healthy. Also, we need flexible approaches to teaching and learning. And another thing is, as I've gone through this presentation, these models are either exhausting for teachers or exhausting for parents, the models that are currently being used. So one of the things that we're suggesting generally is that would provide a space where parents and teachers are part of the conversation, and maybe even sometimes children too are part of the conversation on which models and which curriculums are best in these times. So I'm not sure how I am on time, but I'm open for any kind of questions, comments, or ideas.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Sorry, wait a second. Yeah, thank you so much, Francesca. Sorry, I cannot, it seems like I cannot start my video. This is Siti. I'm the head of department from English education. Lately, my colleague, she was the one who opens this webinar. Thank you so much for your nice and interesting presentation.
Thank you.
I tried to show you my video, but it seems like it won't start. I don't know. Okay.
I'm gonna stop
so
sharing
yeah.
to help. So okay.
Yeah, I cannot. I don't know. Somehow I cannot share it. Wait a second. I'm gonna try to. Okay, it's working now. Yeah, this is me. Hello. Yeah, it's so good to hear your presentation. It's very interesting. I was here the whole time, but I just didn't show my face.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Nggak apa-apa, yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this is a weird time. It's a really weird time in the world that we're in this global pandemic that everyone feels the same effect, like everywhere in the world. Like we cannot do normal things anymore, but this is the new normal and we have to deal with it. Yeah, thank you so much. For the audience, would you please, if you have any questions, if you have would you would like to make some kind of queries, or maybe, I don't know, just open for discussion with Francesca. She will be with us until maybe 10 a.m. What time is it now? Your time, like 9
My time?
p.m., right? Yeah.
No, it's 10 p.m. That's why it's very dark in my office.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're still early here. It's 9, almost a 9:15. So
I appreciate everybody meeting early for
no,
me.
we appreciate you because you were willing to stay up late, and
yes, this is past my bedtime.
Yeah, it's your bedtime, right?
But that's okay, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, we try to be here early, so that you don't have to go bed. You don't have to go to bed too late. So, yeah. Would you please? Okay. So we have one question here from Haryadi. You could have asked this question yourself, actually, right? So the question here is how to make sure our students are honest in doing tests or kind of tasks in this online learning. That was the first question. And the second one, do you have any idea how I have to handle the special needs students in this situation? So if you have ideas about how to make sure that the students are honest, well, this is about integrity, but I think I'll leave to
Right.
Francesca to answer these questions. Okay.
So, to making sure that students are honest in their tests or the tasks, I think a lot of it has to do with, and I understand that there are certain restrictions that we all have, but in the kind of tasks that you have the children do. So I'm working, my area of expertise would be up until about age 9. So you can kind of tell when a 9-year-old is cheating. They're very like, if it's a little bit less complicated. But I think the biggest question that I would have is why is the child, the first question that I would ask myself, and I guess this would also be when I'm working with undergraduate students, why would the student be dishonest? What is happening in that student's life that is causing them to be dishonest? And kind of focus on, are they, because right now, especially with the uncertainty that's going on, people have a lot of anxiety. We're not sure what is happening in the future. So I can understand how, especially, and I'm now thinking about my undergraduate students, they might be being dishonest because, or they might think about being dishonest because they're afraid that they might not be able to find a job when this is over, or that the job that they had planned on may not exist. So I think if I was not, if I suspected dishonesty in a student, I would probably talk to the student. I don't think that we can ever ensure that a student is not going to be dishonest, or that a student is going to be dishonest, or is going to be honest. We cannot ever ensure that, but we can kind of talk to them a bit, maybe make them feel a little bit malu about like the possibility of being dishonest. But yeah, I would actually talk, if I suspected the student might be dishonest, I would talk to them. It's a very, I mean, that's a very difficult question because it really depends on the types of assignments that you're having the students do.
Okay, like so if I may chip in a little bit. That it tends to, like, it's not about being, I mean, like, they tend to, like, students tend to find the easy way because it's easy, you know, cheating is easy. You don't have to think, and probably in this weird time of the world, that thinking critically is not very encouraged, because at home you don't want to think critically, like you just want to play and be lazy and running havoc around the house, whatever. But at school context, in school, it's a different situation because your teacher is there. They can make sure that you do your job. But at home, your parents, maybe your mom is already driven crazy, maybe. Like I'm driven crazy with my son.
Right. Like a lot of people are.
I think parents can relate to that. Like, I mean, most, I mean, like, students also, like, I believe they have their own reasons to choose the easy way. Like, it's not
right.
Maybe also they don't have the concept of integrity yet, and it's our job as parents or as teachers to teach them how to maintain integrity even when no one is looking.
Right. And I think yeah, and I guess okay, so I'm going to be more direct in my answer. So for early childhood education, one of my background would be mostly in integrated, like either project-based learning or integrated learning, or integrated curriculum. So in either of those examples, because the assignments are in some ways very unique because they're very choice-based, they're going to be unique to each student. there's no way that a child is going to be able to cheat. There's not going, if they take an easy way, they're just not going to do the assignment well. So an example of an early assignment, and I'm thinking maybe second grade, would be to read a book. Like maybe you would assign, like to have the teacher assign a book, read this book, or have somebody read this book to you. And then you have to write down a series of questions about this book, like questions that you have that this book made you ask. So if it was a book about birds, like one of the questions might be like, how do birds fly? What do birds eat? So the questions are all going to be unique. Then after that, after those questions are asked, then we would have the children kind of go out and do that research themselves. So that because the children are actually in some ways like creating the assignment in some ways, it's very difficult for them to cheat. So there's not really a chance of integrity. So it's a little bit of a, it's kind of a hard question on that. But I'm going to move to the, move to the special needs students. That is a very difficult question to answer also. And a lot of the students that we see that have special needs and that are in special education classes, a lot of them need to be in schools. And I'm not saying, I am actually very much, I'm very much not, I think it's very important that as many people stay home as possible. But if a child has a disability and the parents are not equipped to be able to support that child and support that child's learning, those children need to be in schools and to be able to get that kind of support. And that's really kind of all that I can say about that. Is it's to do remote learning for special needs, depending on the disability, is just extremely difficult. And like I said, I don't have answers for a lot of this because we've never been here before. We've never had to do this before. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. Thank you. I hope that answers the question from Juni. Yeah, maybe because nobody in this world is experienced to have this kind of situation. So we're still like learning all together and figure it out how to best serve our students and how to educate them regardless the challenges. Yes. There's the two other questions. The first one is how to break monotonous online learning, like because it seems like as teachers probably I experience it myself with my students that they don't want to show their face. It seems like I'm talking to a wall or I'm just like doing a monologue all the time. And it can be frustrating, but sometimes my students are nice and say hi ma'am, and it can be nice. So how to break, because sometimes I'm reading the questions because sometimes I don't know the students are with me or not, and because some of them turn off the video. So it seems like everyone has, all teachers maybe experience this kind of thing, because me as a student, I would turn off my video as well.
No, and we talk about that actually a lot, and that's an issue of equitable. Like some children, I mean, you can't see my beautiful office behind me, but I have books and stuff. But some children don't have, and some students don't have a healthy, clean environment to be working in, and that can look very different. It can make them feel bad if their peers see that. And then there's also a question too of women, like, I mean, sorry, I mean, I see several names here. I don't know if you're wearing your hijab or not. If you're not, and so there's definitely there's an issue of equitability. Like, it's okay to turn the camera off, I think. But then there's a question too of how do you keep it? How do you know that a child or somebody is actually working, and some of that involves using breakout rooms and making sure, like going in and creating group projects for the students where they have to work together in breakout rooms. And even if they're going in and they're doing they're chatting and they're speaking with each other in those small group settings, and you as the teacher can actually go in and monitor and see what's going on in the breakout rooms while they're working on a project. So that's one thing, and that works. I've seen that go in kindergarten on up through the university level, just kind of making sure that you're kind of rotating so that you're not just doing a lecture straight through. So lecture, small groups, lecture, small groups, go through.
Okay, so you divide into chunks with the students. It's not like it doesn't have to be with a big group, right?
Right.
Yep. Okay.
Right.
So next question. You mentioned that there is no national curriculum. So is there any standard to meet for school in setting up the curriculum? What is the curriculum development phase? So would you please elaborate on this one?
Yeah, no, I know it's very and it was very hard when we actually even adopted what we did adopt. We have and not all states follow this, but each, like the state that I live in does not have this, but we have our own, but it's the same. Anyway, we have what's called the Common Core standards. And those standards are specifically children must be able to, like it's a standard, like just saying that children, I'm thinking of some of the early childhood ones. Children must be able to define the difference between living and non-living. They have to be able to do that. Now, how the child figures out like what is living and what is non-living is going to be either up to the school district, or it can go anywhere down to the teacher. So the teacher knows, let's say the teacher is the one who's in charge of doing the curriculum. The teacher knows that the child has to meet the standard, living or non-living. Then they create the lessons to kind of to get to that standard. So we have standards, but we have common standards, but we do not have a curriculum, like a standardized curriculum. That makes sense.
Yeah. So this one, long questions. So this is a story actually. I think it's a story. So, but this is from like most southern island Indonesia. So Miss Yanti is teaching in a very remote island in Indonesia, in Rote. She's teaching a disabled girl called Nelianti, 16 years old girl. She got a lupus disease and she was dismissed from school. You can read it yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking at this.
Yeah, okay. So this is like quite interesting.
So this is really, this one's an interesting one. So it's a 16-year-old girl who she has lupus. So, and I guess when I'm saying a child with a disability, lupus would make her more vulnerable to COVID, to complications from COVID. When I'm thinking of disability, I'm thinking more of like a child who has a developmental disorder, or a child who's like autistic, or a child who has Down syndrome, that needs extra support. But this is really interesting. So she has lupus and she's home. She can't walk, which is sad. I have some friends that have lupus actually. So she's homeschooling. So homeschooling is something that it's a model that we've actually used, and it's not just in the United States. I know, and it's not legal in every country in Europe, but I know that a few countries in Europe also do use it. It's basically, it's where, once again, you have standards. You have these standards where, like, okay, so the child, or in this case, the 16-year-old girl, maybe you want her to be able to write, to create a recipe in English, or you want her to be able to write a poem in English. So that would be the goal. But then how the student would go about that would be something that would be completely up to you as the person who is teaching them. So I think one thing that I just need to make clear is that culturally, the US is very focused, and I do not believe that individualism and collectivism are two separate things, but we do, when it comes to a lot of things, we focus a little bit more on the individual than the collective, which is a problem sometimes. And that leads to having teachers being able to have more control over what they teach. When somebody homeschools, it just means that the parent is the one who has the control over what they teach, versus the school district or the teacher. If you would like, actually, I will add my email, and if you want to email me about homeschooling, I can give you some resources specifically. I think it's a little bit too involved to kind of just go over briefly, a little bit slightly off topic on this. But if you could email me, Ms. Yuli, and we can talk and see if we can come up with some ideas about that. I'd be interested in helping. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. This is really generous of you to share your email so that we can barrage you with many questions.
No problem. We're all in this together. We're all just trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, this is so nice. Okay, so another question is like, I would like to know, how is the internal and external quality assurance implemented to the curriculum? Probably in your country, but because we have like a little bit, we try to simplify the teaching, like what is implemented in schools and also in university. We reduce the hours, and then also we try to divide the lesson into smaller chunks compared to the before the pandemic and everything. So there are regulations that we have to make, like the lesson smaller and then simpler, so that it can be consumed by the student within their pace, and it is in a longer time. So how is it in the USA? Like, I mean, how did you do this in university context, and probably in different educational contexts that you're familiar with?
So in the university context, and I'm talking about last semester, because I was teaching last semester, we just did our best. Like, that's all we did. We just did our best. And we couldn't, yeah, I mean, we basically opened a dialogue with students. A lot of what we talked about was just making sure that students were okay, physically and mentally, with what was going on. So, and that's kind of still one of the things that we're still focusing on. And that's something with, and from what I'm seeing, we've gotten rid of, like, we don't have a national, like, we don't have a national test. There's no national test, but we do have standardized tests, smaller standardized tests, depending on states and different groups and everything. Most states have actually just gotten rid of the standardized testing. So we're not, I think at this point, we're trying to make sure that the kids are alive. Like, that's really like the end of it. Like, as far as if our kids are alive and they're doing okay, and they're not crying and their parents aren't going crazy, then that's we're doing a good job.
Yeah, yeah, we just I mean, like, we reduce the standard up to the lowest grade, as long as the kids are not starved and they're happy, and we don't go crazy doing all those things.
We're all trying.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay so far. Yeah.
If the kids are alive, we're trying. We're doing our best. So, yeah, we're all learning this together. And we don't know what the outcomes are going to be. Like, we don't know what things are going to look like in a year. So all we can do is have discussions like this, and I would love to hear. And actually, if you want to email me any thoughts or anything, that's great too. Yeah, we're all just kind of trying to figure this out, doing our best.
Yeah. Okay, that's very nice of you. Okay, so everyone, if you still have more questions, Francesca still has about 30 minutes to go, or if you have exhausted all your questions, while she's still here, maybe you can like share your thoughts, or I don't know, maybe you share your experience about dealing with your students in this difficult time of the world, and then we can share some perspective. Like I will start, for example.
Yeah, I would love that.
So I'm teaching in university as well, for like I'm in the third semester, and especially for speaking lesson. So it's kind of like difficult to have them practice how to do the practice, because usually I can just walk into the class and then give them the material, and then okay, you do the practice, speak whatever you want to speak within the topic that I give them for the day. But nowadays I have to give them like links, and then watch this video, and then can you pick a friend, and they cannot pick their friends because their friends is far away. They are in their own homes, and they're in different cities, and I asked them to record them having like conversations with their friends, and it was like so funny because it's not like having normal conversation. You call and then you recorded it. No, it's not. So they call one time, one audio, okay, they talk one sentence, and then they stop it, and then the other friend record, and then they stop it again, and then they combine it, and then they said it. So it was like confusing. It's when I go, why are you doing it like that? It's not what I want. Like, but I can't blame them for not really what is it, because they have to practice it, like to be able to speak in English, they have to practice a lot, and they don't have their friends at this moment. They don't have their friends in real life. They have like over the phone. They can chat off of Facebook, off of WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, but they can't do it online live. Because when they have conversation, they tend to refer to Bahasa Indonesia, and there is no me to supervise them to make sure that they speak in English. So it's kind of like a little bit challenging for my students, that they cannot have the practice that they need to be able to speak properly, and I cannot supervise them directly. And also even then when I ask them to upload the videos, okay, so record yourself talking with your friends and then upload to Google Drive, and then I can watch them practicing or something. But it's still different because I cannot I cannot get the sense that they're that they're doing what I ask, or they do their best, because it seems like they're just doing the bare minimum. So this is what I experienced as a teacher. It can be like really challenging to teach something that requires the skill to it. Then I cannot help them hone their skill, because we were away from each other, and teaching practices like they're hiding. When I have online class, they don't want to show their faces, and I cannot. When I ask them questions, they just like say one or two words, and then they keep silent. So it's kind of like really challenging.
No, and it is, yeah, I can imagine that it's challenging, especially from my experience of working with Indonesian students. They do work very well in groups, and not being able to be near each other. I'm thinking there was a last time I was there last summer. I was working with well, I wasn't working with her. I was a friend of mine is she was teaching, she's Pakistani, and she was teaching students Urdu. Was it Urdu? Yeah. And she had them go out and do like music videos of like they had translate Indonesian songs into Urdu, and then dance and do these music videos. And I'm thinking like, that's such a beautiful language lesson to be able to teach. And the kids really enjoyed it, but not being able to be with each other. Like, we have to come up with these creative, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to, if anybody, like I said, if anybody would like to brainstorm, like I said, I don't have answers. This was an overview of what I'm seeing here, but I would be happy to brainstorm, and I would love to, yeah.
I would love that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really great.
So there's one more question here. What do you think about a mother who chose to dismiss her special needs son completely from school during this time for the sake of his health?
A child who is alive is children are always learning. One of the things that we have to remember is that we talk so much about academic attainment and academic achievement, but we are always learning. We're learning as adults. We're learning from each other right now. You're learning when you leave your house, when you're sitting in your house, when you're reading a book, when you're watching TV, you're always learning something. And if we're too focused on academic achievement, we forget, and we prioritize academic achievement over a child's life, we have a problem. So I think it's really important to think about that children are learning now, whether they're achieving, whether they're doing the assignments that we give them or not, they're still learning. And unfortunately, there's, like I said, we don't know what things are going to look like once we're through this. But then we're going to have to clean up and try to get them focused on more on academic achievement. But right now, we really do need to prioritize children's health, and like students' health and well-being is a priority. So I would say that I think if a child is vulnerable to complications for the virus and whatever their disability may be, as long as that child is healthy and cared for at home, the child is better off than contracting the virus. So
yeah, okay, so yeah, that was from Angra. So
yeah,
as long as your kids are alive, that's fine. We don't have to pursue academic success at this time of the day.
Yeah, I mean,
health is the first thing that we have to put concerns on. I don't think that. Yeah.
A sick child, a child who, like, especially if they're in a high risk situation, if they're in a high risk category, like, and they could die, like, when they can come back to school, bring them to me. Not me personally, but like, my thoughts are, bring them to me. Then I will do my work to like to help them with the academic achievement aspect. But the parents' job is keep the kid alive right now in that case. So
yeah, okay. Yes, okay, that was really nice. Is there any more questions for Francesca? No? Seems everyone already asked questions that they want to know. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes, I have. Oh, Mr. Faisal, but would you please? Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, I have a question. You explained that during COVID-19, big companies sell curriculum. What kind of curriculum they sell? Thanks.
I personally have not seen these things in action because I don't leave my house. But so I don't know, and I don't have children. But from what I'm seeing, Okay, so the like I said, this is an overview. This is not like I didn't sit there and go through and do research. The people that I spoke to like that were talking about these curriculums. One is a parent, and she was saying that the curriculum that was given to her child, it was great. Like she thought it was great, but that it was just basically a bunch of like quizzes and videos and little games for her child to play on the computer throughout the day, and then videos that were like shown in between, and then with occasional breaks. And it was just kind of all like kind of set up on a website, and there were just everything was kind of timed and broken through and cut down for them. One of the teachers that I spoke to was actually very upset because even though that teacher is going into the schools to teach, but like the children are at home, they're doing it completely online, but the teachers are still in school. That teacher was telling me that they no longer, that the district was giving them a curriculum specifically where they were setting up the lesson plans, and then they were doing any kind, they created lesson plans and quizzes. So her job was still to kind of to teach, like she was still teaching it, but she couldn't choose anything, and then the company created the quizzes and created the tests. So basically all she did was all she was asked to do was like read off of a script and then grade things. So she was kind of not happy about that. So that's really all I know about what's going on there. Is that these are out there, they're happening. So sorry, I hope that helps.
Yes,
Hope that
you.
answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And I can actually email you with more information on specifically the companies that are creating them, and to give a better idea of what they are if you would like. I do have your email, so I would be happy to share that information with you if you're interested.
Right.
Anybody?
Okay, Mr. Faisal, it's nice to see you here.
Good to
We've
be
been
here.
emailing like for a while. I was contacting him. I contacted IFIS a while ago, and then he's the one who responded to me. And we've been in touch since then. And probably, I hope that you will be willing to have another cooperation like with us like this.
Yeah,
In the future
I'd love
sometime.
to. I'd love to.
This is the first series of we have so we have 6 webinars in one series, so we will start another probably next year, and we're still thinking about what kind of concept that we're going to have for the next year event. But at this moment we're still focusing on mainly online teaching, like this one of the things that we're going
There's a
to
lot.
have for the next webinars.
That's, yeah. And also I'm going to recommend, if any of you, because most of you teach, do many of you teach university? For those of you who teach at the university level?
No, so these participants mostly they are teachers, and they teach in university. Some of them are university teachers,
Some
or
are
high school teachers, or senior high school, junior high school teachers. So they come from different backgrounds. Yeah.
So I'm going to actually, I'm not giving you a website address. You're going to have to Google, or not Google it, but go through. Oh, now I have to look it up though. Maybe I will give you the website or the address. Hold on. There is a Facebook group called, I think it's Higher Ed Learning Collective, and it was created by one of my colleagues. And it is not, there are definitely high school teachers that, so I'm putting the link in the chat, and it's a global group. There are people from all over the world in it. Let me just get it to everybody. So I highly recommend looking at that group and possibly joining it. And there, I mean, of course, there's funny little memes and stuff, but people are coming up with real questions and real problems that they're facing. Some of them are things that were addressed. Some of the questions that you guys asked me, how do you keep it engaging? Like those kinds of questions are being asked and constantly. How do we make sure a student is being honest? But they might, because people are giving like their exact situations, some of these might resonate with you and kind of help you navigate that system. So yeah, I'm just giving you that resource. I think it's an excellent resource, and it's helped me and it's helped a lot of my colleagues get through this. So.
Yeah, okay, so Haryadi, this will be very useful for you, how to keep your student honest during their online learning, so that you can check whether they are honest or not.
Yeah, no, because it's a very, you can give like actual context, like this student was doing this thing and I'm confused, like I'm concerned. There might be more direct answers to that, and that might not be something that I would be, if I haven't experienced that particular issue, I might not be able to answer that. But yeah, so but there are people all over the world. How many people are in that group? I'm like looking now. It is over 32,000 members, and they're all over the world, so they might be able to help you.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay.
To the audience, you can ask your questions. Silakan bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, nanti bisa dibantu untuk saya terjemahkan. Barangkali mungkin ada yang agak malu kalau mau ngomong langsung. Silakan saja. Please feel free. Like we can do that. I mean, or if you feel shy, you can like just shut your questions in the chat room.
Yeah.
Come on, Andy. Maybe you want to ask question, Andy. Andy used to be my student, so I'm inviting you to ask questions. Oh, no? All right.
No.
Is that all? Are you sure? Yeah. So yeah, this is close to the time that we have to end. It seems like everyone has asked a question.
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. And if you still have more questions to Francesca, you can shoot her an email. She already gave you the address. You can send her an email. Follow up with this webinar. Maybe you still have some secret hidden questions that you don't want to everyone know about. So you can send her a message privately. And yeah, I think. Yeah, if there's no more questions, I think we should close this one. Yes, thank you so much, Francesca, for spending time with us, for like.
Thank you.
And in your bedtime as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll sleep well tonight.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
you'll sleep
much.
well. Okay. Thank you so much, and have a good night. And thank you for everyone who has attended to this webinar. Hopefully that you get something useful from this. And if you have any questions, you can just send us an email or send me an email to the email address that I already posted on our websites. And also you can email Francesca. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night to you, Francesca. And
Thank you, Miss Francesca.
yeah, goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Silahkan kalau masih mau ngobrol, jangan malu-malu. Francesca sudah pergi.
Sini udah.